Healing techniques of Jesus. It is clear from the text that Jesus operated in the typical style of a tribal shaman, and he used the sometimes emotionally explosive techniques of catharsis and abreaction. To establish this point, we need to look at the original language that was used to record Jesus' ministry in general and the healing events in particular. For example, the English word ecstasy comes from the Greek ekstasis. In Greek, as with English, the word implies a state of being outside of normal consciousness, and it is linked to trance, frenzy, or rapture associated with mystic or prophetic exaltation, as well as loss of self-control. At Mark 5:42, in reaction to Jesus' raising Jairus' daughter, the crowd is both ekstasis and the related existemi. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was of the age of 12 years, and they were astonished with a great astonishment. In Euripides' Bacchae at 850, existemi is rendered by the English translator T.A. Buckley as a dizzying madness. Although existemi can in some cases be translated as amazed or astonished, the context in Mark would point to the stronger definitions of this word. In his work on the migration of Abraham, Philo asks, how then should any good thing be wanting when the all-accomplishing God is at all times present with his graces? He continues in terms of the emanations and states that God pours his showers on us continually, are compared to a fruitful womb. Philo then explains his own experiences of divine inspiration. Sometimes, when I have come to my work empty and I have suddenly become full, ideas being in an invisible manner showered upon me and implanted in me from on high, so that through the influence of divine inspiration I have become greatly excited and have known neither the place in which I was nor those who were present, nor myself, nor what I was saying, nor what I was writing. For then I have been conscious of a richness of interpretation, an enjoyment of light, a most penetrating sight, a most manifest energy in all that was to be done, having such an effect on my mind as the clearest ocular demonstration would have on the eyes. Philo explains this again in his book, Who is the Heir of Divine Things? Now there is one kind of trance which is a sort of frantic delirium, causing infirmity of mind, either through old age or melancholy or some other cause. There is another kind, which is excessive consternation, arising usually from things which happen suddenly and unexpectedly. Another kind is mere tranquillity of the mind, arising when it is inclined by nature to be quiet. But that which is the best description of all is a divinely inspired and more vehement sort of enthusiasm, which the race of prophets is subject to. The Greek word enthusiasmos literally means to be enthused with the Spirit of God. It was a word that was intimately associated with the Hellenistic mystery religions, and it is the root of our modern English word, enthusiasm. To add to our conclusion here, it is worthwhile to point out that the Hebrew word for prophet is nabi. This word meant someone who was mentally unstable to the point of delirium and hallucination. The many anthropological works that we have on the subject also point to the same situation regarding those who, in primal cultures, are chosen as shamans. In all other cultures outside of the modern industrialized West, the worldview of the people is one overflowing with agents from the invisible world. It is only in our present culture that the experience of such forces is considered, at least as far as the dominant culture is concerned, to be symptoms of a psychological illness that should be healed away. Surrounded by an aura of secrecy, Mark's Jesus issues commands to silence in respect of his healing, action, and identity. He gives private instruction to his disciples. He issues parabolic teaching meant to confuse. He attempts to conceal himself and refuses to give a sign to establish his credentials. At what is regarded as the very center point of Mark's maze, the so-called confession at Caesarea, The question of Jesus' identity is raised ostensibly by Peter, "You are the Christ," and then, to the consternation of the reader, apparently repudiated, "Get behind me, Satan." The messianic confession, which appears to be a flash of insight into Jesus' true identity, is relativized in favor of other and different Christological titles and estimates. I want to look more deeply here at some of the specific Greek terms that appear frequently in Mark's Gospel. These terms were all deeply connected to and described the processes of the Hellenistic mystery religions. First, thaumazo. This is a verb which means to wonder, marvel, or be amazed. The intensive form, to be greatly amazed, is ekthambeomai. After healing the centurion's servant, Jesus was thaumazo, amazed. Second, existemi, which literally means to stand outside of oneself, and hence to be overcome with amazement, or to be out of one's wits or senses, or to be beside oneself, to be mad. Third, ekplessomai, which is a verb that means literally to be struck out of one's mind. Fourth, thambeomai, which is a word that has an intensive meaning of amazement. Since fear or anxiety is also a component within the amazement response, Greek also uses phobeomai, which means to be afraid and to be overcome with fear. That amazement or wonder is a major theme or motif within the Gospel of Mark is obvious. When one considers how frequently it occurs, the emphasis given to it, its usage in significant contexts, and its relevance to other important and related themes and motifs in the Gospel, such as faith and unbelief. I will pin a comment to this video with the relative passages. To wrap up this final chapter, it must be stated that the powerful emotional constellations described in Mark's Gospel attest to Jesus' role as a healer who is working with the emotional dynamics of catharsis and abreaction. Emotions of fear and or astonishment are also predicated of other characters in the story, which demonstrate the common occurrence of the contagion of that emotion engendered by Jesus. These words all point to and describe the altered states of consciousness that has become synonymous with tribal healing in ritual contexts, as well as the mechanics of catharsis and abreaction in psychotherapy. This is the reason Jesus was charged with being possessed by Beelzebul, by the prince of demons. You are driving out demons. To understand this charge better, it needs to be explained that it is a commonplace for the shaman or other healer to enter into the altered states of the person being healed. It is part of the healing process for the practitioner to stand next to the afflicted emotionally in the throes of the sometimes violent exorcism of their inner demon. Mark's Gospel stands out from all other ancient Greek writing as having used these words far more than any extant narrative. In the Vita of the wonder worker Apollonius of Tyana, for example, these other dimensional or transpersonal words appear only about 10% as often. Given the historical and linguistic evidence that we have, it is clear that Jesus' wonder-working and healing ministry focused in the realms of depth psychology to help the sufferer break free from the prison of their mind. The Legion narrative at Mark 5:1-20, embellished as it is with military and political terms, is a graphic illustration of this in a single story. As mentioned, this narrative and the Q Centurion narrative both confirm my assertion that Jesus' ministry was not only equally focused on Gentiles, it was generally more successful with those outside the Jewish culture. Jesus' family sided with the religious leaders in their hostile attitude towards and treatment of Jesus. Jesus' family were of one voice against him, including his brother James, who, after Jesus' death, became a leader in the extremely nationalist church in Jerusalem. It follows from this that a bone of contention between Jesus and his family was the same as that of the religious leaders. That is, the inclusive nature of Jesus' ministry and his friendship with Gentiles.